graduated, elevated. Now it's my time to shine. Yeah, let's go. Major moves, power moves. Take it to the top one time, non-stop.
There's a lot of good points that you've made, because we're all unique and we're all different. And organizations, just to go back to the interview process. So I was going to ask about that, to say, for example, if you walk into a room, which your friend has already advised you to say he was showing his intelligence, and you read the room and you can tell that they're just doing this for formalities, they don't actually want to engage with me. What is your opinion? Because this happens to a lot of individuals that apply for jobs, and you can tell that this is an exercise. Basically, they've already found their candidate, they're just doing it for the sake of it.
My advice is walk out. I've walked out on job interviews before as well. I've rejected jobs that I didn't think were right for me. And I'm, I guess, fortunate to be in a position where I can reject a job that's offered to me. But some advice that I think it was my dad gave to me again, is when you have a job interview, it's not just them interviewing you, you are also interviewing them. Use that to your advantage, like, yes, you want or maybe need to get a job, or you want or need to work at this particular company. But if you go there and they're like, oh, this test is, look how smart I am, or that you go there and they use phrases like, we're a family here, or something like that. One of the red flag phrases that a lot of people, again, put on TikTok as well. There's like the business translations that we're a family here means we're going to ask you to do loads of extra work for little pay or whatever. And like, just look at what people are like. If people are walking around all slumped and sad, then it's probably not the right place for you. And if people are walking around happy and talking, it probably is the right place. But my advice is if the vibes aren't right, if you don't feel like the job is the right fit, don't be afraid of rejecting that job, because they won't be afraid to reject you either. So like, but yeah, a job interview isn't just them interviewing you, it's you interviewing them, and they can fail an interview just as much as you can, and don't forget that. So yeah, if you don't like a company, walk out, leave the interview early. Just say, hold your hand. No, actually, you know what? I don't want to waste your time anymore. Sorry, I've heard what I've heard. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. I'm not going to take this job. I'm just going to cut this interview short now, and you've got half your day back or whatever. Like, don't be a dick about it. Can we swear on here? Don't be obnoxious about it. There we go. You've got choices now. Don't necessarily burn any bridges. Be polite about it, but don't be afraid to walk out as well. And again, like, it's not personal. Like, you're applying for a job. The job doesn't care about you. You may or may not care about the job or company, but at the end of the day, it's a process that it goes both ways. And you do need to remember that in the job interview process.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem.
The next point is, usually you get your job offer. Let's say if a recruiter's brought you in, or they will give you a job offer. There's a tendency, I'm not sure if this has happened to you, whereby, let's say, for example, they say you will get paid 50K, and you have car allowance, we'll say 3,000, and maybe a bonus of 1,000. I'm just making these numbers up, by the way. It's not true.
I'd take that job.
It's not true. But when they meet you and then they go, actually, to offer you the job, we'll say now is 30K, there's no need for car allowance. Should one continue and say, yes, I will take the job, or should they say no?
I would say that very much depends. That depends on... So I'm going to say that this depends on a few things, from both the company's point of view and from the applicant's point of view. So fresh out of doing my PhD, I have got lots of experience in academia. I've got lots of experience in research and data analysis and actually doing the work. I have got zero real world experience. I have not been in a job. I have not been in a professional setting. I've not been in an engineering setting. I don't know all of the lingo. I have a lot of experience on like doing work, but I have no professional experience. So if I've applied for, well, I interviewed for a senior systems engineer position, which is a senior position. You would expect to have some knowledge of, you expect at that level, you're expected to know what you're doing and expected to be able to solve problems and whatnot, which I can do. I've got the experience of doing that, but I've not got a professional thing. If the job is offering between, say, 35 and 45,000 pounds, you have to expect that you're going to be on the lower end of that because you do not have professional experience. And you have to be realistic about things like that. So when I finished my PhD and I was looking at, well, what salaries would be sensible, I knew that a postdoc position in London paid, say, £30,000. So I said, right, industry is probably going to pay a little bit more than £30,000. I've got an advanced degree. I've got and a PhD is experience. I've got 4 years of experience problem solving. I just don't have professional experience. I don't have the engineering, and I don't have the job specific experience that we're going to need. So I went into radar knowing absolutely nothing about radar. But you have to allow for, well, there's gonna be a subject knowledge gap as well that I need to fill. So I would say that it depends on your level of experience, first of all. If you've done a PhD a bit later in life and you've got some work experience and then you've done a PhD and then you want to get back into an industry, then yeah, like if they said, oh yeah, we could offer up to £50,000 and they offered you £30,000, I'd say no. I'm worth more than that. I've got industry experience and I've got a PhD. I'm worth more than that. But if you're fresh out of a PhD and they said we can offer up to £50,000, but you're fresh out of university, we're going to offer you £30,000 instead, then that would maybe be something worth considering. Maybe not in this, now inflation has sort of taken off. Maybe not in this sort of, maybe it would be closer to £40,000 that you should be expecting. But I would say that you need to have your expectations sort of set at a reasonable level. You can't expect to come out of a PhD and walk into a £50,000 job, I would say. It also depends how much you want the job. It depends, is it a company that you want to work for? Is it a company that you agree with? Is it something that is it somewhere that you would like to rise up through the ranks for? Is it relevant to your interests? Is it relevant? There's lots of things that you then need to consider, like, is it a job that I want? Is it a job I can afford? And then you have to look at why are they giving me the lowball offer. If you're, let's say you've got loads of experience. Let's say you've done your PhD, you've got some work experience, and someone says, right, we've got this £50,000-60,000 job here, and you interview for it, it goes well, and then we go, actually, we're going to give you £30,000. You need to look at that and go, well, why are they giving me that offer? Something about that isn't right. Something about that company is probably a bit dodgy for them to be doing that. I would see that as a red flag. If you're fresh out of university and you go, oh, this company's amazing, I'd love to work there, it looks really cool, and then you go there and the vibes are good, and they say, look, we know that the upper end of this is £50,000, but you are fresh out of university and we're going to be training you up on the job to get that subject knowledge gap filled. We're going to have to offer you this lower salary because of the skill gap there. We need to get you up to speed before we can do it. Then I think that would be a more reasonable offer. So that's a very long way of saying it depends. So yeah, you be realistic.
Mhm.
If you're fresh out of a PhD and you have no experience, then you're not going to get paid as much as someone like me who's done a PhD and now has 3 years of industry experience on top of that. And also not only that, I can now demonstrate that I've gone from PhD working on one topic to radar working on another topic to a different company working on a different topic. So I've proved that I'm also, adaptable as well. So like there's lots of different things that go into it. So I would expect that if me and someone fresh from PhD went for the same job and we both got offered the job, I would expect to be offered a higher salary than someone fresh out of PhD. Equally, I've got 3 years of industry experience. If I went against someone who only had a master's degree but had 25 years industry experience, I'd expect them to get paid more than what I would get paid as well. There's an ounce of realism and an ounce of sort of introspection that you need to take as well. So it's not necessarily a bad reflection on the company. It could be, but it could also be a reflection on where you are in your academic journey as well. So my advice is it depends,
No,
unfortunately.
no. I, I
Yeah.
I love that. It's very honest and it's very
Hmm.
detailed because it is subjective, and you are
Yeah.
right. Research in terms of due diligence on the company is important, and also who's going to be a line manager.
Yep.
Interview the person that's interviewing you. So the
Yep.
next question is to do with contracts. Most people have never had an employment contract.
Hmm.
They don't know what to look out for in terms of a contract. I don't know if you have any guidance for those
Um,
who've never had one.
my advice is read the contract. And again, it depends. It's what do you think is reasonable? What are you willing to accept? Um, if you're uncertain, you can take the contract away and you can take it to the Citizens Advice Bureau and they can have a look through it, or you can show it to your friends or your family. It's not necessarily a confidential document. You can show it to whoever you want to show it to and say, just have a read through this. Does it look okay? So there's certain things that, for instance, I would be unhappy with. My fiance, one of her previous jobs, made her sign away her right to work only work less than I think it's 47 hours, the EU directive, 47 hours a week. So
48, I think.
yeah, 48 hours. But they basically they wanted her to work 50 or 60 hours a week contracted, and they couldn't do that unless she opted out of this EU directive. Um, for me personally, that's a red flag. I would be like, no, you can shove that one right where the sun doesn't shine. I would, I. I would see that as a massive red flag, and I'd be like, actually,
Mm.
no, either take that out of my contract and I'll work my 37 hours or my 48 hours or whatever it is, or I'm not working for you. Um, Make sure that the names and the job titles are correct. Make sure that if you're expected to be employed by or line managed by X and it's mentioned in your contract, make sure that the person you're expecting to be your line manager or that the job that you're expecting to be doing is the one that's mentioned in the contract. Um, but really just read the contract and decide whether or not that A, it's what you're expecting, and B, it's something you're happy with. Um, so like I get contracted 25 days of annual leave, but I also get flexi time as well, and that's contracted. So if I work more than 37 hours a week, so if I say I wanted a day off, and I'm contracted to work 37 hours a week, but if I wanted a day off, I could do an extra 7.5 hours, so I could work. Can't maths isn't mathsing at the moment, but be
That's
40.
okay.
44 and a half hours. So if I work 44 and a
Yeah.
half hours one week, I could then work 30 out, well, 29 and a half hours next week,
Mm.
and that would be fine, But I've balanced it out, and that's in my contract. I'm allowed to do that. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure that's in there. Or if you want to work from home, make sure that it's in your contract that you are allowed to, do flexi work and whatnot. Make sure you're allowed to
Mm.
do hybrid work. Um, Certain things you would expect to be in there. So I work for a defense company, which means that I've had to have a background check. and my employment is subject to me passing that background check. Some jobs will want you to do a DBS check or a background check, and depending on the industry, that's sort of to be expected or sort of not to be expected. So if I hadn't passed my background check, they would have said, sorry, your contract is now not null and void. We can't offer you this job. And that's understandable if there's a chance that you might leak, UK secrets to somewhere. That's a risk that you can't take. So again, it's just be sensible, read the contract, show it to people, ask people if it's something you're not certain about. Ask people, explain it, go to citizen advice, show it to your parents, show it to your friends. If you know a lawyer, even better. But yeah, like it again, it boils down to personal taste. What are you willing to sign away, essentially? And my second advice is, if they say anything to you verbally contract related. So if they say to you, oh yeah, we'll contract you for this much money for this much time, but after this certain amount of time, we will, bump your pay or bump your hours or give you more, whatever. Make sure you get it in writing as well. Like, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. Also, I believe contract law, any ambiguity is favoured in the person who has signed the contract, not the person who has written the contract as well. So yeah, just read it, be sensible, show it to other people, and decide whether or not it's something that you're happy with. Essentially, is the advice.
No, I understand, and thank you very much again for your honesty. The next point is probation, because some people, they don't know what a probation is, they don't know how it works. Some probations are 6 months, others 3 months, others 9 months.
So again, your probation will be mentioned in the contract as well, or should be mentioned in the contract as well. All of the probation periods I've had have been 3 months. But essentially, what your probation period is it's the job is trying you out. They are essentially saying, we're going to hire you on. You will have a probation period of this amount of time. And this is us trying you out. This is us making sure that you are the right fit for the company. This is us making sure that you can do the job, and that you can, you can deliver what you said you can deliver. Making sure that we like you. Alternatively, as well, it's making sure that you like them. So normally with a probation period, normally it's 3 months. You will join the company, and in the first 3 months, you can be fired on the spot if you do something stupid, or if you prove to be incompetent, you can just be terminated on the spot. Alternatively, I think that means you can also just walk out. You don't have to give a notice period. You could say to them, actually, you know what? I'm a month in. This isn't working out for me. I'm leaving. I'm going to go somewhere else. You normally don't have sick pay. You normally have slightly reduced rights. Sometimes you won't be able to take leave in your probation period. But essentially, it's your trial. If you work in a pub through university, it's like your trial shift. You go there and you do a shift to make sure that you either can do the job or can learn to do the job. And your probation period is essentially just an extended trial. At the end of the probation period, normally there is a probation meeting, which is where you sit down with your line manager and they say to you the most awkward question in the world: how do you think it's going? And you go, I think it's going well, please keep me. And you sort of go through, you review your performance over the last 3 months. You got they say, how do you think it's going? And you go, I think it's going well. I've contributed to this project. I've done this. This has been, I've done this work and I'm happy with. I feel like I'm getting on with everyone. And they say, yeah, I agree, or no, I don't agree. We need to work on this. And there's a number of outcomes from that. Normally, at least in my experience, if you've been vaguely competent and, polite and quite punctual, they'll say, yeah, we've been happy with you for the last 3 months. You've passed your probation period, and then you get your full sort of rights as in your contract, which means they need to give you a month to fire you. You need to give them a month's notice, or they might 6 weeks or whatever it is in your contract at the moment. Mine's a month. At my previous company, it was 6 weeks. They'll often bring in sick pay at that point as well. So you'll get your however many days or weeks of sick pay that they allow for. And then and then basically you're then set. You're there. But yeah, your probation period is essentially a trial period. It's a period where you or they can basically just terminate the contract at any point, and it's passing that is a point at which sort of all of your contractual benefits sort of come into play. Like some places well will say, oh yeah, we've got all of these benefits. We've got deals with this, and this, and you can get discounts here, here, and here. But to get access to those discounts, you need to pass your probation period and things like that as well. So like it's fairly standard. I don't know anywhere that doesn't do a trial period, so it's not anything to be alarmed at. I would say yeah, like that's essentially it on probation periods. It's a fairly standard practice and nothing to be alarmed at. And it's just a trial basically.
Lovely. So this question, we touched on it in our previous interview, which was red tape. Now that you're in industry, see, I remember everything that we talked about, and you were like, I'm fed up, no, man, there's so much red tape. And I was like, where you're going, there's more red tape. Yep. Have you found it?
You cannot escape the red tape. It's the red tape is different though. Like academic red tape is who owns what data and who said this and who went to this conference and blah 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 blah. Industry red tape is I need to get this software put on my computer, but I don't have admin rights on my computer because the IT department have the admin rights. So you have to get in touch with the admin and you have to explain why you need a certain bit of software. Or you need something and you can't get it because of this, and you need to find a workaround. Yes, there is a lot of red tape. But the red tape varies from company to company as well. So I've never worked for a startup, but I'm aware that if you do go and work for a startup, there is less red tape there because there's less process involved. I work at BAE Systems now, which is a big, old, well-established company, which means that there's lots of processes involved, which means that if you want to get anything done, it happens very slowly. So be prepared for that as well. I ordered a so I've been given a work laptop, and it doesn't have an HDMI port on it. So I've ordered a thing that it's like a multi-port thing, and it's got an Ethernet cable on it, an HDMI port, and a VGA on it, and some USB things and whatnot for it. And that's taken forever to get here. I could go to Currys and I could buy one and get it on expenses, but because of the way that BAE Systems does the IT, I have to get it through the company, and then it has to come to me at work, and that's slightly annoying as well. I'm a little bit annoyed that sometimes I need to get various research papers and I can't get access to these research papers because the BAE Systems isn't subscribed to that journal or whatever, and most universities are. It's red tape is different, but is still very present, and you do need to be aware of it, and you do need to be prepared to get caught in it. But I have noticed that industrial red tape seems to be different to academic red tape. And it varies from company to company as well. So BAE Systems, a lot of the red tape is in the IT, and a lot of it is in the government contracts and the national security, and making sure that you mark everything with the correct sort of clearance levels and various other bits and pieces. Whereas other industries, it's to do with contracts, or like, oh, we need to do this because of the contracts. I'm like, well, that's stupid. And they're like, well, yeah, but we're contracted to do it. I'm like, well, why didn't you ask someone before you wrote that in the contract? But yeah, red tape exists. It takes a different form, but what can you do? What can you do about it? Yeah.
you know, I remember your frustration, and I know I was like, you will admit it where you're going. You were like, no, it's not. I was like, it's bad because it's just like you've mentioned,
Yeah,
access to a journal. You have to get approvals.
yeah,
You know, changes. Let's say your flexible working was you started 8 till 4. Now you need
mhm,
approvals for it to be 7 till 3, for
yeah,
example, and that takes time because there's people who need to sign off, etc., etc. So
yeah.
it's something that's there. So this is the final question, and I'm sure you're tired of me now.
Oh, not at all. I've been having fun. I had
So
fun the
the
first
question.
time, which is why I agreed to come back. So
Oh, thank you.
say it as a good. If you want me back again, I'll come back a third time as well. Just
Well, I will ask
rolling
you.
interview slot, rolling interview. We'll
I
pencil
will
the next
definitely
one
come
in
back
now.
to you. Yeah, no, thank you. So, with PhD Hard Talk, you came the first time
Yep,
when I was still figuring things out,
yep.
and we've gone on now on Series 6.
Mhm.
And the question I have to ask you is, do you think PhD Hard Talk is beneficial for scientists, and I mean social sciences and actual sciences in the lab, and in terms of STEM, and also for the universities alike as a platform, or do you think Noma, call it a day, it's not working?
I think it is very beneficial personally. I think it's beneficial to people who are doing PhDs so that they realize that perhaps things that they're going through aren't isolated to them. They're not, necessarily the only one experiencing it. So us talking about burnout, for instance, for second year
Mm.
burnout, a PhD student watching this might be like, "Oh, I'm going through that. I'm not alone. Everyone goes through that."
Yeah.
Or alternatively, like you said, like in my first interview, I said, "Oh yeah, you're gonna hit the second year burnout. You got to go." And you said to me before we started recording, you're like,
Mm.
"Oh no," I was like, "No, it's not going to affect me. I'm different," and it did. So
Mhm.
it might help people prepare for something that people who've been there know is coming. Like the
Mhm.
second year slump, the fact that doing a PhD is difficult. Like, but it might help put some perspective on things for people who are doing a PhD. I think it's very useful for people who are applying for a PhD to see what PhD students are doing. Not
Mhm.
only that, what people are doing after a PhD as well.
Mm.
Like I finished my PhD 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago now, which has gone very fast.
Mm.
um, and like I've just spent the last hour and a bit talking about what my experiences have been since finishing university, finishing my PhD, and leaving academia. So it gives them like not only a what to expect in my PhD, but what to expect after, and that would be very useful for people who are doing a PhD as well. Or if you're a PDR, or if you have a PhD and you're doing a PDRA and you want to go out, it might be useful for that. Or if you want to get back into academia, it'd be useful for that. And I think as well it'd be useful for universities, not necessarily for a research point of view, but from our lots of PhD students are finding this a particular issue, or lots of PhD students are finding this a particular benefit. How
Mm.
can we avoid this issue, or how can we do more of this benefit as well? So I think PhD hard talk definitely has a place existing, and I'm very happy that it does exist, and I'm quite happy that I could contribute to it as well, and hopefully something comes from it. Like hopefully someone you said from my first interview, someone got in touch and said
Mhm.
that I'd inspired them, or that they were very happy to see me on there, and hopefully we get more of that sort of thing happening as well. But no, I think it's very good that it exists. I think it's nice to have a community of PhD folk sharing their experiences and making sure that other PhD people know that they're not alone in what they're going through. But yeah, I think it's worth doing, and I take my hat off to you for doing it, because the amount of organisation that's going into this is something I don't think I could necessarily do.
No, it is a lot of work. It really is. And thank you so much in terms of
No problem.
everything you've said. And it is hashtag Project Dissemination to the world and hashtag Sustainable Knowledge to the world. So thank you again for your time. If
No
anyone
problem.
wants to get in contact with Alex, all the details are at the bottom and links to his paper at the bottom as well. His email address and social media information's at the bottom. So, Alex, what is the next step?
Continue working, I guess. Alternatively, as well, I am sort of trying to build up a little bit of a presence online doing science communication. I'm trying to decide on an online handle, so it will be below, like depending on what the handle ends up being. But I'm trying to build up a little bit of a presence online doing science communication. So if you go and have a look on TikTok, feedback is always appreciated. I'm really trying to find my feet on TikTok at the moment. I will be doing some YouTube stuff. I'm also looking into doing some form of public or corporate speaking as well, or public and corporate training as well. So if you have events coming up and I'm available and you want a speaker, let me know.
Lovely.
But yeah, that is something that I just have a sort of interest in doing at the moment. It's not anything near like an income at the moment, but it's something I would like to build up a little bit of experience in, and maybe one day it will be. For now, I'm quite happy in my job. I'm very happy that I've got money coming in. So yeah, lots of maybe I might even be an artist. Who knows? So, yeah, that's sort of next for me. Yeah, thank you for
So
having me.
I love that. So this will be going up later on in the year anyway. So
Yeah,
I think you'll be able to share your new
yeah.
handle.
Yeah, I don't know what it will be at the moment, but
Yeah.
I'm expecting it will be something like Science Wrangler. Um, I like, yeah,
I
I'm
like
yeah, it's good, isn't it? I can't
that.
take any credit for it. My friend Ian came up with it, but
Thank you, Ian.
um, we were looking at websites that are available. So I'll probably be buying sciencewrangler.com, and then I'll be changing all of my social media handles to Science Wrangler. Uh, so preliminarily, Science Wrangler. If it's not that, I will let you know, and we can put the correct details below the video so people can find me and get in touch with me if they want to. So
Lovely. Well, thank you again, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me, and if you want me back, always happy to come back. Thank you.